The unthinkable encounter. The vast expanse of space had always beckoned humanity, a siren call that whispered of endless possibilities and untold wonders. For centuries, we had gazed at the stars, dreaming of the day we would finally break free from the gravitational embrace of Earth and venture into the cosmic ocean. That day had come and gone, and humanity had spread across the solar system, establishing colonies on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and research stations on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. But nothing could have prepared us for the events that unfolded on that fateful day in 2157. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the viewport of the Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling storms of Jupiter. The gas giant's vibrant bands of color never failed to captivate her, even after 3 years of being stationed at this remote outpost. As the lead xenobiologist for the United Earth Space Agency, Elena had always hoped that her time here would lead to a groundbreaking discovery. Little did she know that her wish was about to come true in the most unexpected way. Dr. Rodriguez, the urgent voice of her assistant, Raj Patel, crackled over the intercom. "You need to see this. Now." Elena hurried to the control room, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. As she entered, she found Raj and the rest of the small crew huddled around the main display screen, their faces a mixture of awe and disbelief. "What is it?" Elena asked, pushing her way to the front. Raj pointed to the screen, his hand trembling slightly. It just appeared. Out of nowhere. Elena's eyes widened as she took in the image before her. There, against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling clouds, was an object that defied explanation. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, and its surface gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Is it a ship?" whispered Sarah Chen, the station's communications officer. Elena shook her head, her mind racing to process what she was seeing. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not natural, and it's certainly not one of ours." As if in response to her words, the object began to move, smoothly and purposefully changing its trajectory to bring it closer to the station. The crew watched in stunned silence as it approached, its true scale becoming even more apparent as it drew near. "Sarah," Elena said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins, "send an urgent message to Earth. Tell them we've made first contact." The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. As news of the alien visitor spread, the station became the focal point of humanity's first interaction with an extraterrestrial intelligence. Elena found herself at the center of it all, coordinating with Earth's leaders and top scientists as they scrambled to prepare for this monumental event. When the alien ship finally came to a stop a few kilometers from the station, a tense silence fell over the crew. They waited, breath held, for any sign of communication or hostile intent. It was Elena who first noticed the change. A portion of the ship's iridescent surface began to ripple and shift, forming what appeared to be an opening. From this portal emerged a smaller craft, sleek and silent, which made its way toward the station with graceful precision. "They're coming aboard," Elena announced, her voice a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Prepare for docking procedures." As the alien craft connected with the station's airlock, Elena and her team donned their protective suits, unsure of what environmental needs their visitors might have. With trembling hands, she initiated the airlock cycle, her mind racing with all the first contact protocols she had studied but never truly expected to use. The inner door slid open, and for the first time in human history, two intelligent species stood face to face. The aliens were tall, easily 7 feet in height, with slender, almost ethereal bodies that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Their faces were devoid of recognizable features, save for large almond-shaped eyes that swirled with colors Elena had no names for. As she stared in wonder, she felt a presence brush against her mind, a sensation both alien and strangely comforting. "We come in peace," the thought echoed in her head, clear as spoken words. "We are the Lyran, and we have traveled far to meet you." Elena swallowed hard, forcing herself to find her voice. "Welcome to humanity's Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega. I am Dr. Elena Rodriguez, and on behalf of the people of Earth, we greet you in friendship." The lead Lyran inclined its head in a gesture that seemed both familiar and utterly alien. "We are pleased to make your acquaintance, Dr. Elena Rodriguez. Our journey has been long, and our purpose is grave. We come seeking allies in a conflict that threatens not just our people, but all sentient life in this sector of the galaxy." Elena felt a chill run down her spine at these words. She had dreamed of first contact for as long as she could remember, but never had she imagined it would come with a warning of impending danger. I'm not sure I understand," she said, struggling to maintain her composure. "What kind of conflict? Who is the threat?" The Lyran's eyes swirled with darker colors, conveying a sense of urgency and fear. "They are known as the Void Hunters, a species as ancient as they are merciless. They consume worlds, strip them of all resources, and leave nothing but lifeless husks in their wake. We have fled before them for centuries, but now we stand and fight. And we need your help." As the gravity of the situation sank in, Elena realized that humanity's first step into the galactic community would not be a gentle one. They were being thrust into a war they knew nothing about, against an enemy they couldn't begin to comprehend. Over the next few days, as Earth's leaders were briefed and emergency meetings were held, Elena worked tirelessly to learn all she could about the Lyran and the threat they faced. The aliens shared their knowledge freely, showing holographic displays of battles fought and worlds lost to the Void Hunters. It was during one of these information exchanges that Elena first saw them, the Void Hunters. The image sent a shudder through her very soul. They were darkness given form, writhing masses of tentacles and sharp angles that seemed to devour light itself. Their ships were organic monstrosities, more akin to deep-sea predators than anything made by sentient hands. As she stared at the terrifying visage, Elena understood why the Lyran had come seeking help. The Void Hunters were a force of nature, implacable and seemingly unstoppable. And now, humanity would have to decide whether to stand and fight alongside their new allies or try to weather the coming storm alone. The decision, when it came, was not unanimous. There were those who argued for isolation, for fortifying Earth and its colonies and hoping the threat would pass them by. But in the end, the choice was clear. Humanity could not stand idly by while other sentient beings fought for their very existence. As Elena prepared to return to Earth to assist with the war preparations, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Fear, certainly, fear of the unknown, of the battles to come, of the lives that would inevitably be lost. But there was something else too, a fierce determination, a sense of purpose that burned bright in her chest. For the first time in its history, humanity was united in a cause greater than itself. They would stand with the Lyran, and together they would face the darkness that threatened to engulf them all. As her shuttle departed the station, Elena took one last look at the Lyran ship, its iridescent surface now a beacon of hope in the vast emptiness of space. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The gathering storm. The months following first contact were a whirlwind of activity unlike anything humanity had ever experienced. The revelation of extraterrestrial life, coupled with the looming threat of the Void Hunters, had galvanized Earth's nations into unprecedented cooperation. Old rivalries were set aside, and resources were pooled as the world prepared for a war that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but countless other species across the galaxy. Commander Jack Harper stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's first true warship built with Lyran technology. At 45, Jack was a veteran of the Mars colonial conflict, but even that paled in comparison to what they now faced. He watched as his crew, a mix of seasoned space officers and bright-eyed recruits, worked diligently at their stations, running simulations and system checks. "Status report," Jack called out, his deep voice carrying easily across the bridge. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, newly promoted and transferred from the Jupiter station, looked up from her console. "All systems are green, Commander. The Lyran shield modulators are functioning at 98% efficiency, and weapons systems are online and calibrated." Jack nodded, a grim smile on his face. The Lyran had shared some of their technology, enough to give humanity a fighting chance against the Void Hunters. But would it be enough? As if reading his thoughts, the ship's AI, spoke up. "Commander, incoming transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Zhao is requesting your presence at the War Council." "Acknowledge the transmission, AI. Tell the Admiral I'm on my way." Jack turned to his executive officer. "Commander Rodriguez, you have the bridge." As Jack made his way to the holographic conference room, he couldn't help but marvel at how quickly things had changed. Just 6 months ago, he had been patrolling the asteroid belt, keeping the peace between rival mining corporations. Now he was about to join a meeting that would determine the fate of entire worlds. The conference room shimmered to life as Jack entered, the holographic projections of military leaders and politicians from around the world materializing around the circular table. At the head of the table stood Admiral Zhao, her weathered face a mask of determination. "Ladies and gentlemen," Zhao began without preamble, "our Lyran allies have detected Void Hunter activity at the edge of our solar system. It's time to put our plans into action." A holographic display of the solar system appeared in the center of the table, with ominous red markers indicating the approaching Void Hunter fleet. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now Earth's chief liaison with the Lyran, stepped forward. "The Lyran believe the Void Hunters are testing our defenses. This isn't their main fleet, but it's a significant force. How we handle this encounter will set the tone for the rest of the war." Jack leaned forward, studying the tactical display. "What are our options, Admiral?" Zhao's eyes narrowed as she considered the question. "We have 2 choices. We can meet them head-on, show them that humanity and the Lyran stand united and won't back down. Or we can employ more guerrilla tactics, striking from the shadows and preserving our forces for the bigger battles to come." The room erupted into debate, with passionate arguments for both strategies. Jack listened intently, weighing the pros and cons of each approach. Finally, he cleared his throat, drawing the attention of the room. "With all due respect, Admiral, I think we need to do both," Jack said, his voice steady and confident. "We show them our strength, let them know we're not easy prey. But we also need to be smart about it. We can't afford to lose ships or personnel in a show of bravado." Admiral Zhao nodded slowly, a hint of approval in her eyes. "An interesting proposition. Commander Harper, what exactly do you have in mind?" Over the next hour, Jack outlined his plan. They would position their main fleet at the edge of the asteroid belt, a clear show of force that the Void Hunters couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, smaller, faster ships equipped with Lyran cloaking technology would hide among the asteroids, ready to strike from unexpected angles. As the meeting concluded and the holograms faded away, Jack found himself alone with Admiral Zhao and Dr. Rodriguez. "It's a good plan, Commander," Zhao said, her voice softer than usual. "But you understand the risks. If this goes wrong, we'll be starting this war on the back foot." Jack nodded solemnly. "I understand, Admiral, but I believe in this fleet, and I believe in the strength of our alliance with the Lyran. We can do this." Elena stepped forward, her eyes shining with a mixture of fear and determination. "The Lyran are impressed with how quickly humanity has adapted to their technology. They believe in us, Jack. We can't let them down." As Jack returned to the Defiant, he felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. The coming battle would be humanity's first true test against the Void Hunters, and the outcome would ripple across the galaxy. The next few days were a flurry of activity as the fleet moved into position. Jack watched from the bridge of the Defiant as ships took up their assigned posts, a ballet of metal and light against the backdrop of space. "Commander, Aria's calm voice broke the tense silence on the bridge. Void Hunter ships detected entering the solar system. They'll be within range in approximately 30 minutes. Jack took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. Sound battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. As klaxons blared throughout the ship, Jack addressed his crew. His voice carried to every corner of the Defiant and transmitted to the entire fleet. Men and women of Earth's Defense Force, this is Commander Harper. In a few minutes, we will engage in humanity's first battle against an alien threat. I won't lie to you. This fight will be unlike anything we've ever faced. The enemy is powerful, ruthless, and fears nothing. But remember this, we are not alone. We stand with our Lyran allies, and we fight not just for Earth, but for all sentient life in this galaxy. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Each of you is trained for this moment. You are the best humanity has to offer, and I have full faith in your abilities. Together, we will show these Void Hunters that humanity is not to be underestimated. Good luck, and Godspeed. As Jack finished his speech, the first Void Hunter ships appeared on the main view screen. They were just as terrifying as the holographic projections had shown. Writhing masses of organic material that seemed to absorb the very light around them. All ships, hold position, Jack ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his gut. Let them make the first move. The Void Hunters approached slowly, almost cautiously. For a moment, Jack dared to hope that perhaps they would turn back, intimidated by the show of force. But then, without warning, tendrils of dark energy lashed out from the alien ships, reaching for the nearest human vessels. Evasive maneuvers, Jack shouted. All ships returned fire. The space between the two fleets erupted into chaos. Beams of energy crisscrossed the void, some finding their marks and others dissipating harmlessly against advanced shields. The smaller human ships darted in and out of the asteroid field, striking at the Void Hunters' flanks before disappearing again. On the bridge of the Defiant, Jack coordinated the battle with a mixture of intuition and cold calculation. Concentrate fire on the lead ship, he ordered. Let's see how they handle losing their command vessel. The human fleet responded as one, focusing their attacks on a single point. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as though their weapons were having no effect. But then, with a silent flash that lit up the battlefield, the Void Hunter ship exploded. A cheer went up across the human fleet, but Jack knew better than to celebrate too soon. The remaining Void Hunter ships seemed to pause, as if confused by the loss of their leader. Then, with a suddenness that sent chills down Jack's spine, they attacked with renewed ferocity. Brace for impact, Jack shouted as a massive tendril of dark energy lashed out towards the Defiant. The ship shuddered violently as the attack struck, but the Lyran shields held. Lieutenant Chen called out from her station, "Shields at 72% and holding, Commander." Jack nodded grimly. "Return fire, all batteries, and get me a status report on the rest of the fleet." As the battle raged on, it became clear that while the human Lyran alliance had the advantage of surprise and superior tactics, the Void Hunters possessed a raw, primal power that was terrifying to behold. Ships on both sides were lost, reduced to drifting debris in the cold vacuum of space. Hours passed, feeling like an eternity to those engaged in the fight. Jack's uniform was soaked with sweat, his voice hoarse from shouting orders. But slowly, inexorably, the tide of battle began to turn in humanity's favor. "Commander," Aria's voice cut through the chaos of the bridge. "I'm detecting a shift in the Void Hunters' formation. They appear to be retreating." Jack leaned forward, hardly daring to believe it. "Confirm that, Aria. Are they really pulling back?" "Affirmative, Commander. Void Hunter ships are disengaging and moving out of the solar system at high speed." A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the beeping of consoles and the distant rumble of the ship's engines. Then, slowly, realization dawned. They had won. Humanity had faced its first true extraterrestrial threat and emerged victorious. As reports flooded in from the other ships, Jack allowed himself a moment of relief. But it was short-lived. This had been only the first skirmish in what promised to be a long and brutal war. "Send word to Earth Command," Jack ordered, his voice weary but determined. "The Void Hunters have been repelled, but at a cost. We need to prepare for their return. And next time, they'll know what we're capable of." Part 3. The Crucible of War. In the months that followed humanity's first victory against the Void Hunters, Earth and its colonies were transformed into a war machine. Factories that once produced consumer goods now churned out weapons and spacecraft. Universities redirected their research efforts towards understanding and countering Void Hunter technology. Even the arts found a new purpose, creating propaganda that united humanity in its fight for survival. Dr. Elena Rodriguez found herself at the heart of this transformation. Her role as liaison between humanity and the Lyran had expanded, making her one of the most important figures in the war effort. Today, she stood in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, presenting the latest findings to a group of military and scientific leaders. "The Void Hunters aren't just a threat to our bodies," Elena explained, her holographic display showing a swirling mass of dark energy. "They're a threat to our minds as well. The Lyran have provided data suggesting that prolonged exposure to Void Hunter energy fields can lead to psychological degradation, paranoia, hallucinations, and, in extreme cases, complete mental collapse." Admiral Zhou, her face more lined than ever, leaned forward. "Are you saying our troops are at risk just by being in proximity to these things?" Elena nodded grimly. "I'm afraid so. But there's hope. We've been working on a neural shielding technology that can protect against these effects. It's not perfect yet, but initial tests are promising." As the meeting continued, discussing strategies and countermeasures, Elena couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. The woman who had once dreamed of peaceful first contact was now at the forefront of developing weapons to destroy an alien threat. The irony was not lost on her. Meanwhile, light years away, Commander Jack Harper and the crew of the Defiant were engaged in a dangerous game of cat and mouse with a Void Hunter scouting party. The Defiant's Lyran-enhanced engines hummed as they navigated in dense asteroid field, using the space rocks as cover. "Contact, bearing 047, Lieutenant Chen called out, her voice tense. "2 Void Hunter ships, closing fast." Jack's mind raced, considering their options. They were outnumbered, but they had the advantage of terrain. "Helm, take us deeper into the field. Weapons, prepare to fire on my mark." The Defiant dove between 2 massive asteroids, its hull scraping against the rock. The Void Hunter ships followed, their organic forms twisting and contorting to squeeze through the narrow gap. "Now," Jack shouted, "hit them with everything we've got." The Defiant's weapons blazed to life, catching the lead Void Hunter ship in a crossfire. The alien vessel writhed in apparent agony as energy beams tore through its organic hull. For a moment, it looked as though victory was assured. But the Void Hunters were nothing if not adaptable. The second ship lashed out with a tendril of dark energy, wrapping it around a nearby asteroid. With a display of strength that defied belief, it hurled the massive rock towards the Defiant. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack yelled, but he knew it was too late. The asteroid slammed into the Defiant's port side, sending the ship into a wild spin. Alarms blared as damage reports flooded in. Jack gripped his command chair, fighting to stay conscious as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated. "Status report," he managed to call out. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, Chen responded, her voice strained. "Shields are down, weapons offline. We're sitting ducks, Commander." Jack's mind raced. They were crippled, defenseless against an enemy that showed no mercy, but he refused to give up. "Area." He called out to the ship's AI, "Initiate Protocol Omega." There was a pause, and then ARIA's calm voice responded, "Protocol Omega initiated. All non-essential power rerouted to experimental systems. Warning: stability not guaranteed. A low hum filled the ship as dormant systems came to life. These were technologies deemed too unstable or dangerous for regular use, a last resort for desperate times. Jack felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up as the air crackled with energy. "All hands, brace for impact," he ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his gut. Then, to the helm officer, "On my mark, give me full thrust towards the nearest Void Hunter ship." The bridge crew looked at him in shock, but years of discipline kept them from questioning the order. Jack watched the view screen intently as the Void Hunter ships closed in, their dark forms blocking out the stars. "Now," Jack shouted. The Defiant lurched forward, its experimental drives pushing it to speeds that threatened to tear the ship apart. They streaked towards the Void Hunter vessel like a bullet, the distance between them shrinking rapidly. "Collision imminent," Araya announced, her tone as calm as ever. Just before impact, Jack gave his final order: "Activate the phase shift drive." For a split second, nothing happened. Then, reality itself seemed to bend around the Defiant. The ship's hull shimmered and became translucent, passing through the Void Hunter vessel as if it were made of smoke. As they emerged on the other side, Jack called out, "Cut engines and revert to normal space." The Defiant snapped back into solid form, its momentum carrying it away from the bewildered Void Hunters. Behind them, the alien ship they had passed through began to convulse, its organic systems thrown into chaos by the phase shift energy. "It worked," Chen whispered in awe. "Commander, the Void Hunter ship is breaking apart." Jack allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes, the best defense is a good offense. Get us out of here before its friend decides to retaliate. As the Defiant limped away, leaving the destroyed Void Hunter ship and its confused companion behind, Jack knew that this small victory had come at a great cost. The experimental systems had taken a heavy toll on the ship, and repairs would take weeks, if not months. But they had survived, and more importantly, they had proven that humanity could adapt, could find new ways to fight an enemy that outmatched them in almost every way. It was a small spark of hope in the darkness of space, a reminder that in this war, ingenuity and courage might just be enough to turn the tide. As the Defiant made its way back to the nearest human outpost, Jack couldn't help but wonder what other desperate measures this war would force them to take. The battle for survival had only just begun, and the crucible of war would forge humanity into something new, something stronger, or break them entirely. The heart of darkness. The war against the Void Hunters had raged for over a year, and its toll on humanity was becoming increasingly apparent. Cities lay in ruins, casualties mounted, and the once optimistic spirit that had united Earth in the face of alien contact had given way to a grim determination to survive at any cost. In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of what was once Geneva, Dr. Elena Rodriguez pored over the latest reports from the front lines. The holographic displays surrounding her painted a bleak picture. Void Hunter forces pushing ever closer to Earth, human colonies falling one by one, and the Lyran allies struggling to hold their own territories. "Dr. Rodriguez," a voice called from the doorway. Elena looked up to see Admiral Zhao, her uniform disheveled and dark circles under her eyes. "We need to talk." Elena nodded, gesturing for the Admiral to enter. As the door sealed behind her, Zhao's shoulders slumped, the weight of command visibly heavy upon her. "We're losing, Elena," Zhao said without preamble. "Our best projections give us 6 months, maybe a year before the Void Hunters reach Earth. We need a game changer. And we need it now." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She had suspected things were bad, but hearing it confirmed by the normally stoic Admiral was terrifying. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, dreading the answer. Zhao's eyes hardened. "Project Prometheus. It's time to take it out of the theoretical stage." Elena's breath caught in her throat. Project Prometheus was the darkest secret of the war effort, a weapon so terrible that its very existence was known only to a handful of individuals. It promised to turn the tide against the Void Hunters, but at a cost that Alina wasn't sure humanity could bear. "Admiral, you can't be serious," Alina protested. "The ethical implications alone." "Ethics?" Zhao cut her off, her voice sharp. "We're fighting for the survival of our species, Doctor. Ethics are a luxury we can no longer afford." As Alina struggled with the moral implications of what Zhao was proposing, light years away, Commander Jack Harper and a crew of the Defiant were about to face their greatest challenge yet. The ship, still bearing scars from its near destruction months earlier, hung in orbit around a desolate moon. Before them loomed a massive Void Hunter construct, a sprawling organic factory that churned out the biomechanical horrors that had laid waste to so many worlds. "RIA, what's the status of our stealth systems?" Jack asked, his eyes never leaving the alien monstrosity on the view screen. "Stealth systems are functioning at 94% efficiency, Commander," the AI responded. "However, prolonged exposure to the energy fields emanating from the Void Hunter construct may compromise our concealment." Jack nodded grimly. They had one shot at this: a daring raid to gather intelligence on Void Hunter production capabilities, and, if possible, sabotage the facility. The fate of countless worlds could hinge on the success or failure of this mission. "All right, people," Jack addressed his crew, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We've trained for this. Alpha Team will board the construct and gather data. Beta Team will plant the antimatter charges. We go in fast, we hit hard, and we get out before they know what hit them. Any questions?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Each member of the crew knew the risks, knew that this mission could very well be their last. But they also knew the stakes, and they were prepared to lay down their lives if it meant giving humanity a fighting chance. As the boarding teams prepared to depart, Lieutenant Chen approached Jack, her face a mask of determination. "Commander," she said, her voice low, "I'd like to volunteer for Alpha Team." Jack studied her for a moment. Chen had proven herself time and time again throughout the war, but this mission was different. It was, in all likelihood, a one-way trip. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" he asked. Chen nodded, her eyes blazing with a fierce resolve. "Someone has to do it, sir, and I've got a score to settle with these bastards." Jack understood. Chen had lost her entire family when the Void Hunters destroyed the Mars colonies. He clasped her shoulder, a gesture of solidarity and respect. "All right, Lieutenant. But you come back, you hear me? That's an order." As the boarding teams launched from the Defiant, Jack felt the familiar knot of anxiety in his stomach. He had sent people to their deaths before. It was an unavoidable reality of command in wartime, but it never got easier. He watched on the tactical display as the small craft approached the Void Hunter construct, invisible to all but the most advanced sensors. "They're in," HFY announced as the boarding team successfully breached the alien facility. Now came the hard part, the waiting. Jack paced the bridge, every fiber of his being screaming to do something, anything. But he knew his role now was to be ready, to ensure the Defiant could extract the teams when the time came. Minutes stretched into hours, the silence on the bridge broken only by the occasional status update from HFY. Then suddenly, alarms blared to life. Multiple Void Hunter ships detected. Chen's voice crackled over the comm, filled with urgency. "They've discovered us. We're initiating emergency protocols," and her transmission cut off abruptly. Jack's heart raced as he barked out orders. "Battle stations. Prepare for immediate extraction of our teams. Weapons, target those incoming ships. We're not leaving without our people." As the Defiant roared to life, dropping its stealth field and charging weapons, Jack couldn't help but wonder if this was it, the moment when their luck finally ran out. But he pushed the thought aside. There would be time for doubt later. Right now, his people needed him, and he would move heaven and earth to bring them home. The space around the Void Hunter construct erupted into chaos as the Defiant engaged the incoming enemy ships, Energy beams lanced back and forth, and explosions blossomed in the vacuum of space. Through it all, Jack coordinated the defense and extraction efforts, his mind racing to stay one step ahead of their relentless foe. "Commander," Araya's voice cut through the din of battle. "I'm detecting a massive energy buildup within the Void Hunter construct. Analysis suggests, sir, I believe they're initiating some kind of self-destruct sequence." Jack's blood ran cold. If that construct exploded with their people still inside. "Time to detonation," he demanded. "Approximately 3 minutes," Araya responded. 3 minutes. It might as well have been an eternity. "Continue suppressing fire on those ships," Jack ordered, "and get me a channel to our teams inside that construct." The next 180 seconds were the longest of Jack's life. The Defiant shuddered under enemy fire, its shields weakening with each impact. 2 of the extraction shuttles made it back, carrying wounded but alive crew members. But there was no sign of Alpha Team, no sign of Chen. As the final seconds ticked away, Jack faced an impossible choice: stay and risk the destruction of the Defiant and all aboard her, or leave and abandon those still trapped inside the construct. Just as he opened his mouth to give the order to retreat, a battered shuttle burst from the construct, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. "This is Alpha Team." Chen's strained voice came over the comm. "Request immediate pickup. We've got the data, sir, but we're coming in hot." Jack's heart soared. "Tractor beam, lock on, and reel them in. Helm, prepare for emergency FTL jump the moment they're aboard." The Defiant's tractor beam lashed out, seizing the crippled shuttle and pulling it towards the waiting hangar bay. Enemy fire intensified as the Void Hunters realized their quarry was escaping. Jack felt every impact, every groan of the ship's stressed superstructure. "Alpha Team is aboard," Araya announced. "Jump. Now," Jack roared. The stars stretched into lines as the Defiant leaped into FTL, leaving behind the Void Hunter construct just as it exploded in a sea. The stars stretched into lines as the Defiant leaped into FTL, leaving behind the Void Hunter construct just as it exploded in a cataclysmic blast that lit up the sector like a newborn star. As the adrenaline of the moment faded, Jack slumped in his chair, the weight of their narrow escape settling on his shoulders. "Damage report," he called out, his voice hoarse. "Hull integrity at 62%, sir," came the response. "Multiple systems damage, but we're holding together. Medical reports 17 wounded, 3 critical." Jack nodded grimly. They had accomplished their mission, but at a terrible cost. "Set course for the nearest friendly base. We need repairs, and our wounded need better care than we can provide here." As the Defiant limped through space, Jack made his way to the medical bay. The scene that greeted him was one of organized chaos. Medics rushing between beds, the air thick with the smell of antiseptic and the groans of the injured. In the corner, he spotted Lieutenant Chen, her face pale and drawn, but alive. She was clutching a data crystal in her hand so tightly her knuckles had turned white. "Lieutenant," Jack said softly as he approached. "You did it. You got the data." Chen looked up at him, her eyes haunted. "We lost good people in there, sir. Was it worth it?" Jack placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the tremble she was trying so hard to suppress. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know that their sacrifice might just give us the edge we need to win this war. You honored their memory by completing the mission." Chen nodded slowly, some of the tension leaving her body. She held out the data crystal. "It's all here, sir. Everything we could gather on their production capabilities, their weaknesses, and something else. Something I think Dr. Rodriguez needs to see immediately." Jack took the crystal, feeling its weight, not just physical, but the weight of the lives lost to obtain it. "I'll make sure it gets to her. You rest now, Sarah. You've earned it." As Jack left the medical bay, his comm unit chimed. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," Araya announced. "Admiral Zhao is requesting to speak with you urgently." Jack frowned. A direct call from Zhao was unusual, especially given their current condition. "Put her through to my quarters," he ordered, quickening his pace. Once in the privacy of his room, Jack activated the secure holographic projector. Admiral Zhao's image flickered to life, her face grim. "Commander Harper," she began without preamble, "I've just received word of your mission. Congratulations on its success. However, we have a new situation developing that requires your immediate attention." Jack's frown deepened. "What's happened, Admiral?" Zhao's holographic form seemed to age before his eyes. "Project Prometheus has been greenlit. We're moving forward with full implementation." Jack felt his blood run cold. He had heard whispers of Project Prometheus, rumors of a weapon so terrible it could turn the tide of the war in an instant. But the cost, Admiral, are you sure about this? The ethical implications are irrelevant in the face of extinction. Zhao cut him off sharply. "This isn't a debate, Commander. Your new orders are to rendezvous with the science vessel Horizon. Dr. Rodriguez will brief you on the details of your role in Project Prometheus." As the transmission ended, Jack stared at the empty space where Zhao's hologram had been, a sense of dread settling in the pit of his stomach. They had already compromised so much in this war, pushed the boundaries of what they thought themselves capable of. How much further could they go before they became the very monsters they were fighting against? The data crystal in his hand suddenly felt like it was burning, its secrets potentially changing the course of the war, for better or for worse. As the Defiant continued its journey through the vast emptiness of space, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were approaching a point of no return. A line that, once crossed, would forever change what it meant to be human. The dawn of a new era. The science vessel Horizon hung in space like a delicate soap bubble, its sleek lines a stark contrast to the utilitarian bulk of the Defiant. As the two ships drew near each other, Commander Jack Harper couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. Whatever Project Prometheus was, he knew it would change everything. In the Horizon's main laboratory, Dr. Elena Rodriguez paced nervously, her mind racing with the implications of what they were about to undertake. The data recovered by the Defiant's crew had confirmed her worst fears and offered a glimmer of hope that she wasn't sure they deserved. As Jack's shuttle docked with the Horizon, Elena steeled herself for the conversation to come. How do you tell someone that the fate of not just humanity, but possibly the entire galaxy, rests on a decision that could damn them all? The lab doors slid open, and Jack stepped through, his face a mask of professional calm that did little to hide the turmoil in his eyes. "Dr. Rodriguez," he greeted her, his voice tight. "I believe you have something to tell me about Project Prometheus." Elena nodded, gesturing for Jack to follow her to a secure holographic display. As she input her access codes, the air shimmered, revealing a complex molecular structure that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. "This," Elena began, her voice barely above a whisper, "is what we've been working towards. The ultimate weapon against the Void Hunters, and potentially the key to our own evolution." Jack studied the display, his brow furrowed. "I don't understand. What am I looking at?" Elena took a deep breath. "It's a retrovirus, Commander. One that fundamentally alters human DNA, enhancing our natural abilities and granting us powers, for lack of a better word. Powers that could level the playing field against the Void Hunters." Jack's eyes widened as the implications sank in. "You're talking about forced evolution, changing what it means to be human." Elena nodded grimly. "The data your team recovered confirmed what we've long suspected. The Void Hunters aren't just aliens. They're what's left of countless species that tried to fight them and failed. They assimilate the strengths of those they conquer, becoming ever more powerful." She manipulated the display, showing simulations of humans with enhanced strength, speed, and even psychic abilities. "This virus would give us a fighting chance. But the cost? We'd be no better than them," Jack finished, his voice barely audible. Elena met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of determination and fear. "That's the choice we face, Commander." Do we maintain our humanity and face almost certain extinction, or do we become something other in order to survive? The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air between them. Jack turned away, staring out at the stars through the lab's viewport. "How long?" he asked. "To implement. A matter of days. The virus is ready. We just need the order to deploy it." Jack's fists clenched at his sides. "And once it's done, can it be reversed?" Alina's silence was answer enough. As they stood there, grappling with the monumental choice before them, alarms suddenly blared to life. "Void Hunter ships detected," a voice announced over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations." Jack and Alina rushed to the bridge, arriving just in time to see a massive Void Hunter fleet emerge from FTL. It was larger than any force they had encountered before. This wasn't a raid or a scouting party. This was an invasion fleet. They must have followed the Defiant, Jack realized, his mind racing. "We've led them straight to Project Prometheus." As the crew of the Horizon scrambled to raise shields and power up weapons, Jack knew they were hopelessly outmatched. Even with the Defiant's support, they stood no chance against a force of this size. Alina gripped his arm, her face pale. "Commander, we're out of time. If the Void Hunters get their hands on Project Prometheus," Jack understood the unspoken implication. If the enemy assimilated this technology, there would be no stopping them. The galaxy would fall, and countless species would suffer fates worse than death. In that moment, facing the abyss of extinction, Jack made the hardest decision of his life. "Do it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Deploy the virus." Alina's fingers flew over the console, inputting the final authorization codes. On the screens around them, status bars began to fill as the virus was loaded into the Horizon's atmospheric dispersal systems. "It'll take a few minutes to reach full saturation," Alina explained, her voice shaking. "We need to buy time." Jack nodded grimly. "I'll return to the Defiant. We'll do what we can to hold them off." He turned to leave, then paused, looking back at Alina. "Whatever happens, it's been an honor, Doctor." As Jack's shuttle raced back to the Defiant, the space around the Horizon erupted into chaos. Void Hunter ships swarmed towards the science vessel, their dark energy weapons tearing through its meager defenses. Aboard the Defiant, Jack took command, his voice steady as he issued orders. "All hands, battle stations. Concentrate fire on the lead ships. We need to buy the Horizon more time." The human vessels fought with desperate courage, their weapons blazing defiantly against the overwhelming force arrayed against them. But for every Void Hunter ship they managed to destroy, 3 more seemed to take its place. As the battle raged, Alina watched the virus dispersal progress with bated breath. 70%, 80%, 90%. Suddenly, a massive tendril of dark energy lashed out, wrapping around the Horizon. Alina felt the ship shudder as it began to be pulled towards the largest of the Void Hunter vessels. "No," she cried, her fingers flying over the controls. "We're so close." The progress bar ticked to 95%, 96%, 97%. The Horizon's hull screamed in protest as the Void Hunter's grip tightened. Warnings flashed across every screen. "Hull breach imminent, life support failing." 98%, 99%. With a final, defiant effort, Alina slammed her hand down on the emergency broadcast button. As the ship's superstructure began to collapse around her, a single word echoed across every frequency, every channel. "Now." In that instant, as the Horizon disintegrated under the Void Hunter's assault, the virus was released. It spread through space at an impossible speed, carried on waves of energy that defied conventional physics. Aboard the Defiant, Jack watched in awe and terror as the virus reached them. He felt a tingling sensation spread through his body, a warmth that quickly turned to fire. Around him, the crew cried out in pain and confusion as their bodies began to change. In the midst of the chaos, Jack saw Lieutenant Chen's eyes begin to glow with an otherworldly light. She raised her hand, and a pulse of pure energy shot forth, tearing through a Void Hunter ship as if it were made of paper. Similar scenes played out across the human fleet as the virus took hold. Ordinary men and women found themselves wielding powers they could scarcely comprehend. Telekinesis, energy manipulation, enhanced strength and speed beyond anything thought possible. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. The Void Hunters, for the first time, found themselves on the defensive. Their dark energy weapons, once so devastating, were turned back against them by humans who could now bend the very fabric of space-time to their will. As the last of the Void Hunter ships fell, an eerie silence descended upon the battlefield. Jack looked out at the sea of debris, at the transformed faces of his crew, and felt a profound sense of loss and possibility. They had won the battle, perhaps even the war. But at what cost? As the adrenaline of combat faded, Jack was left with a haunting question. In saving humanity, had they lost what made them human? The dawn of a new era had arrived, but it was not the triumphant moment they had imagined. Instead, it was tinged with uncertainty, with the weight of a decision that could never be undone. As the transformed human fleet regrouped, preparing to take the fight to the heart of Void Hunter territory, Jack couldn't help but wonder what the future held for this new species they had become. Would they use their newfound powers to build a better galaxy? Or would they, in time, become the very monsters they had fought so hard to defeat? The stars seemed to shine a little differently now, as if acknowledging the birth of something new and unknowable. Humanity had survived, evolved, but the true test was yet to come. For in the crucible of war, they had forged themselves into beings of immense power, and with great power comes the greatest responsibility of all, the choice of what to become. As the fleet set course for the unknown, Jack made a silent vow. They would not forget their roots, their humanity. They would carry the best of what they had been into this new future, and they would face whatever challenges lay ahead not as conquerors, but as guardians of life in all its forms. The war against the Void Hunters had shown humanity the depths of its fears, the heights of its courage, and the true cost of survival. Now, as they ventured forth into a galaxy forever changed, they carried with them the most important lesson of all: that the greatest battles are not fought in the stars, but in the heart of every sentient being who must choose, each day, between darkness and light. The dawn of a new era had come, and with it, the promise of a future limited only by the strength of their will and the depth of their compassion. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but for the first time since the war began, there was hope. Hope for a future where the light of consciousness, in all its myriad forms, would continue to shine brightly in the vast darkness of space.